What's going on? This is Theo Greminger, aka the OG Fantasy. Tough week, tough night last night. Nick Chubb looks like he might be done for the season. You're already dealing with Saquon Barkley injuries, Austin Eckler injuries. The injuries are really mounting up, especially at the running back position. But we're here to help at Player Profiler. Definitely check out my column that I write every single week called Waiver Wire. And this week it's week 3. Check it out. It drops Tuesday mornings every single week here at Player Profiler on the website. Let's talk about some options at the quarterback position. Most of my guys that I'm going to reference are available in 75% of Yahoo leagues, but I'm going to give you a couple of shallow options. 40% rostered right now is Derek Carr. It didn't look great last night, but he has the weapons. They're going to have some decent weeks. That Carolina defense is also pretty good. Derek Carr, if you're in a shallow league. Another shallow league ad is Matt Stafford. He's going to be available in about 65% of Yahoo leagues. Back-to-back 300-yard passing games for Matt Stafford. And my favorite waiver wire ad at the quarterback position this week is Sam Howell. Sam Howell has now passed for 501 yards in 2 games played. Washington is 2-0. Howell has gone 3-0 as a starter right now in Washington. He's got 2 massive games coming up against Buffalo and in Philly. If Washington can pull off one of those 2 games with a win and walk out of this early season slate 3-1, I think there's going to be even more steam for Sam Howell. Baker Mayfield, if you're in a Superflex league, consider adding Baker Mayfield. He had a really nice start to the season. Obviously, he had the Mike Evans game, but he passed for 317 yards. That's Baker Mayfield's first 300-yard passing game since 2021. You got C.J. Stroud. C.J. Stroud, we've got to start monitoring. Last week, this past Sunday, he had 384 yards passing. Obviously, the game flow went in his favor, but that offensive line's a mess, and Stroud still passed for 384 yards. We love that in fantasy. We're going to talk about some of his receiving options coming up. And then if you're in a very deep league and you need a streaming option, it's Minshew Magic this week. Terrible matchup on the road in Baltimore, but we've seen some funny things happen when Gardner Minshew starts at quarterback. He had 171 yards passing in relief for Anthony Richardson in the win over Houston. Consider Minshew Magic. Running back position. Jerome Ford is your number one ad for this entire waiver wire week. If he's available in your league, I feel comfortable putting a 75% bid on him. In some leagues, it's going to take more. You have a potential for an RB1 production every single week out of Jerome Ford with that offense, with the way they like to run the ball under Kevin Stefanski. Jerome Ford also has the speed to do so. If you're in a shallow league, Zach Moss is rostered in about 53% of Yahoo leagues. If he's available, he's a nice addition. I think he's going to put up somewhere right on the RB2, RB3 line production. This past week, he had 18 carries, 88 yards, and he had a touchdown. And what was also intriguing is he had 4 catches. So Zach Moss is a boring play, but he's a volume-based RB2 or flex play for you. Grab him if he's available. Another shallow league ad, Roschon Johnson. Roschon Johnson is available in about 60-something% of Yahoo leagues right now. The takeover is coming. Roschon Johnson's a very talented player. Look to put him on your roster if he's available. He's the kind of guy that I think we're going to have in our weekly lineup every game in the second half of the season. Craig Reynolds, he's available, and get this, 100% of Yahoo leagues. I know, not shocking for Craig Reynolds, but David Montgomery is going to miss some time with a quad injury, another running back injury we have to deal with. Craig Reynolds has had success under Dan Campbell. In 2021, he had a 2-week period where he was an RB2 for back-to-back weeks. He had 216 yards rushing. And this year, it's going to be more Jahmyr Gibbs than we've seen last week, but Jahmyr Gibbs only had 48% of the snaps and only 7 carries. I doubt they give Jahmyr Gibbs more than, let's say, 12 to 15 carries in any game this year. His work is going to be through the air. Craig Reynolds will be the goal line back in Detroit. That offense can score a lot of points. Add Craig Reynolds. Matt Breida, I'm not that enthusiastic about Matt Breida. Don't go nuts here, but Saquon Barkley is going to miss 2 to 3 weeks. Matt Breida, last year he had a couple of RB2 performances, but I am not very optimistic. I don't want to see you waste a ton of fab, but if he can slide through, this could be a volume-based RB3 or RB2 performance. Tough matchup this week against San Francisco. New York's going to have to do it through the air, in my opinion, so you might have a few receptions from Matt Breida. Tyjae Spears. I love adding Tyjae Spears. He makes my overall top 10, which I'll reveal in a minute. Tyjae Spears is one of the best handcuffs in football. We don't really need to discuss that. If Derrick Henry went down, Tyjae Spears in every week top 15 play at the position. He's also seeing his weekly usage increase. Couple other handcuff options: Chuba Hubbard, Sean Tucker, Ty Chandler, and Latavius Murray. These guys are looking like the handcuffs, the number 2 backs in their offenses. Look to grab them. Jaleel McLaughlin for deep leaguers. He found the end zone this past week. He only had 1 carry. The week before, he had 1 catch, but he looks the part. He's a rookie running back, undrafted free agent. I think that he is interesting. I think that there's a chance that he could take over for P. Ryan and get a lot more work as the season progresses. One other play, if you don't like Matt Breida, take a look at Gary Brightwell and Eric Gray. Eric Gray is intriguing to me. He's playing special teams for New York. He was a 5th-round draft pick out of Oklahoma. He caught a lot of balls in college. Again, this New York Giants running back situation, we're not going to chase it. Tight end wise, Luke Musgrave, no-brainer add. He's available in 75% of Yahoo leagues. Had a poor game production wise, was leading all tight ends in air yards in week 1. Musgrave is a great addition. FFPC managers, tight end premium managers, Zach Ertz. Zach Ertz has got to be rostered in a lot more Yahoo leagues after this. He's getting a Travis Kelce-like target share in his first 2 games. He has 18 targets over 2 weeks. There is a kind of a love from Josh Dobbs to Zach Ertz in terms of trying to get him fed the ball. Zach Ertz is 33 years old, but we don't care. If he's going to get this kind of targets, then we want to have him on our fantasy roster. This past week, he had 56 yards as well, so the production is starting to pick up. One guy that it's cheap and you can add, Cade Otton. He's a nearly every down player in Tampa Bay. This past week, he had 6 targets. He caught all 6 of them, had 41 receiving yards. He now faces the Philadelphia defense that conceded 2 touchdown passes to TJ Hawkinson and a touchdown to Hunter Henry. They are giving up 3 touchdowns to tight ends in 2 weeks. Could they give up another one to Cade Otton? We'll see. But Cade Otton is definitely in the mix to be streamed this week. Dawson Knox, you know what it is. Dawson Knox is a touchdown-dependent guy and a great offense attached to a great quarterback. He caught a touchdown this past weekend. If you catch him on the right week, especially if you're a Josh Allen manager, he can be definitely helpful for you. Logan Thomas exited the game with a concussion. I'm not sure if he's going to play this week, but he had a very good first game, and he was on his way to a second strong performance, caught a touchdown, and then he left the game. So consider those guys. And then for deep tight end premium leagues like FFPC, Durham Smythe. Durham Smythe's on the field every single down. Wide receivers, Tank Dell. Love Tank Dell. He's available in a ton of leagues right now. I think Tank Dell could be a weekly wide receiver 3 in Houston. This past week, he had 7 catches. He had over a 20% target share. This is a day 2 pick. His game seems to mesh very well with CJ Stroud. Tutu Atwell, I've been begging you to add him in every one of my articles. He now has a 119-yard performance in week 1, followed up by an 82 combined yard performance in week 2. He is a thing. It's not just Puka Nacua in Los Angeles. Josh Reynolds, great addition right now. Josh Reynolds had an 80-yard performance in week 1, followed up with 2 touchdowns this past week. He's a wide receiver 3 type flex play for you for every week until Jameson Williams gets back. Jaden Reed, add Jaden Reed. Jaden Reed is an absolute baller. He just needs to see his role expand a little bit more. He has 13 targets in his first 2 games. We'll see if Christian Watson's coming back, but I'm not sure if it's going to affect Jaden Reed. Jaden Reed found the end zone twice this past weekend. Don't expect that to happen every week, but do expect Jaden Reed to see his role expanding. He is a very good wide receiver. Speaking of very good wide receivers, Marvin Mims. Marvin Mims is a baller. Marvin Mims has explosiveness. He has speed. He just needs more snaps. He played a reduced role again this week, but he had 113 yards receiving on with 2 catches. He found the end zone. This is a guy that Sean Payton's not a dummy. He's going to get Marvin Mims more involved as the season moves along. They took him in the 2nd round for a reason. We really like Marvin Mims at Player Profiler. 2 Pittsburgh wide receivers, Allen Robinson and Calvin Austin, depending on your needs. These guys are cheap ads in deep formats. Jalen Hyatt. I'm into Jalen Hyatt as a stash. He had 89 yards receiving on 2 catches this past week. He had a big 58-yard reception that kind of got the Giants going against Arizona in that comeback win. And then two other Giants wide receivers to consider if you want more immediate production, Darius Slayton and Isaiah Hodgins. I am betting on New York having to attack San Francisco in the secondary. They're not going to be able to go toe-to-toe with them up front, especially with Matt Breida. I think you're going to see some Daniel Jones runs. I think you're going to see some runs from the running back to keep them honest, and you're going to see a ton of Darren Waller and a lot of work for the wide receivers. We'll see how that works on a short week in San Francisco, but both those guys could be usable without Saquon there. A couple of their deeper guys, Jonathan Mingo, didn't do much last night. He's a stash for me. Adam Thielen obviously had a pretty strong game, but I think as the season progresses, Mingo is going to get more work. He's a guy I want to stash, especially in deep 20-man roster formats. Devontae Parker, Sunday, he made his season debut. He had 8 catches for 57 yards. Kendrick Bourne has 20 targets in 2 games, but he's rostered in too many leagues for me to really talk about. He's available in probably about 50% of Yahoo leagues, whereas Devontae Parker is available in like 98% of them. Juju Smith-Schuster is dust. It's going to be other receivers in New England bringing it this year. Hunter Henry and a couple of these veterans like Bourne and Parker are going to have some unexpected usage. If you need a 1-week streamer, Jalen Waddle might miss this week with a head injury. Look to Braxton Berrios. If you're in a super deep league, like an NFFC format, Braxton Berrios might be able to get you through the week. He could give you like a 10-point, 12-point game. He'll get a little bit more usage. He's a decent receiver. He can win in the slot. And they got to account for that guy, Tyreek Hill. So some of these other wide receivers in Miami are going to get work. The overall top 10, guys. Number 1, Jerome Ford. Make it rain. 75% fab. Go for it. These opportunities rarely present themselves where you have a guy who could be a RB1 on the waiver wire. I'm going 75% in leagues where he's available. He's not available in like any of my leagues, but if he's available in your league, go nuts. My second favorite addition on the waiver wire, Tank Dell. My number 3, Roshan Johnson. My number 4, Tutu Atwell. Number 5, Josh Reynolds. Number 6, Tyjae Spears, elite handcuff. We all saw the opportunity Jerome Ford has. If Derrick Henry were to go down, that's Tyjae Spears. Jaden Reed would be 7. Craig Reynolds, number 8. Marvin Mims, number 9. And then a tied for 10 is Luke Musgrave and Zach Ertz. If I need immediate production, I'm probably going Zach Ertz. If I want a long-term play at the tight end position, like a tight end 2, it's Musgrave. Check out my top 10. Check out my waiver wire article. Check it out every single week here at Player Profiler. And let's crush it. It's week 3. Time to get some wins.